The president has decided to make it clear in Davos, Switzerland, that we will not be militarily invading Greenland. I need to just pause here for a moment. For 2 days, I've been very critical of the president of this, and I've written about how I agree with why he wants Greenland, that we need Greenland, but we could work with our allies and get everything the president wants short of ownership of the island. I woke up this morning to a barrage of social media commentary from people who were essentially, Donald Trump never really wanted Greenland. Erickson, you just don't understand. This is a New York City real estate developer, and he's negotiating the way a New York City real estate developer does. He never really wanted Greenland, but he's going to get what he wants. The fallback for the most ardent Trump supporters and who justify all of the president's behaviors is that he's always engaged in 4D chess. And I don't think it's a coincidence. Every single one of the people who gave me that line this morning that, oh, this was all a negotiation tactic and a bluff, and he's really got some superior brain and power and 4D chess, every single one of them was a QAnon supporter back in the day. They all fell for QAnon nonsense, and now they're weaving these elaborate series of apologetics as to how Trump is always outmaneuvering everyone, as opposed to he really just wants Greenland and has no impulse control. It's always got to be the most complex explanation to avoid admitting that maybe the president is in the wrong. The Democrats do this too. It's the sign of hyper-partisanship when you can't admit your guy might be a bit of a nutter on an issue. Every president's a bit of a nutter on an issue. Even George W. Bush was on certain issues. Even Ronald Reagan was on certain issues. And they could laugh it off. They had senses of humor. But not here. Nope. You got to bend over backwards and apologize. And yeah, I stand by everything I said at the opening of this program today. And also, Trump is wrong on how he's handled Greenland. And to the extent these people think, well, he's got some master plan and he's going to be able to get the military on Greenland now in ways he could have gotten that by just asking them instead of doing this. But he has taken military force off the table. This is the president in Davos.
We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. All the United States is asking for is a place called Greenland, where we already had it as a trustee, but respectfully returned it back to Denmark not long ago after we defeated the Germans, the Japanese, the Italians, and others in World War II. We gave it back to them. We were a powerful force then, but we are a much more powerful force now after I rebuilt the military in my first term and continue to do so today. We have
and on it went. It was less rambly than his press conference yesterday, but it was rambly. But no military force. A little more Trump at Davos.
Foothold in our hemisphere, so we did it for ourselves also. And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps.
Some Italian.
After the war, we gave Greenland back.
Yeah, we held it in trust, by the way, so the Danes had it. We actually took it, so and Iceland, too. Iceland and Greenland, the Brits and the Americans invaded and took them and held them. The Danes sank their own navy. The Danes were afraid that the Germans would swarm through Denmark, grab their ships, and use them against the Allies. So the Danes literally blew up and sank their own ships and then blessed the British-American invasion of Greenland to hold it so the Nazis couldn't have it. The Churchill had the British invade Iceland as well. There was a diplomatic protest from the Icelandic government, and it didn't matter. And it was kind of wink, wink, we protest. Come in and take it over, please, so the Nazis don't get it, and secured shipping channels. But the Americans were holding Greenland in trust for Denmark. which already had a sovereign colonial claim over it, and we gave it back and recognized their territorial control. It just, I will say this, though. The president always does manage to weave some humor into these speeches.
We want Europe to be strong. Ultimately, these are matters of national security, and perhaps no current issue makes the situation more clear than what's currently going on with Greenland. Would you like me to say a few words of Greenland? I was going to leave it out of the speech, but I think I would have been reviewed very negatively.
He also had this to say about Europe.
This afternoon, I want to discuss how we have achieved this economic miracle, how we intend to raise living standards for our citizens to levels never seen before, and perhaps how you too and the places where you come from can do much better by following what we're doing, because certain places in Europe are not even recognizable, frankly, anymore. They're not recognizable. And we can argue about it, but there's no argument. Friends come back from different places. I don't want to insult anybody and say I don't recognize it. And that's not in a positive way. That's in a very negative way. And I love Europe, and I want to see Europe go good, but it's not heading in the right direction. And
by the way, he's not wrong on that. It's really not headed in a good direction. Last one on Trump and Davos. One more clip from him. He addressed the situation in Venezuela.
Polluters under sleepy Joe Biden, new domestic oil and gas leases fell by 95%. Think of that. And they wonder, why was gasoline going up so fast? The gasoline actually topped $5 a gallon, and some places $7 a gallon, and more than 100 major power plants were violently shut down by incompetent people that had no idea what the hell they were doing. Under my leadership, U.S. natural gas production is at an all-time high by far. U.S. oil production is up by 730,000 barrels a day, and last week we picked up 50 million barrels from Venezuela alone. Venezuela has been an amazing place for so many years, but then they went bad with their policies. 20 years ago, it was a great country, and now it's got problems, but we're helping them. And those 50 million barrels, we're going to be splitting up with them, and they'll be making more money than they've made in a long time. Venezuela is going to do fantastically well. We appreciate all of the cooperation we've been giving. We've been giving great cooperation. Once the attack ended, and they said, let's make a deal. More people should do that. But Venezuela is going to make more money in the next 6 months than they've made in the last 20 years. Every major oil company is coming in with us. It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing to see. The leadership of the country has been very good. They've been very, very smart.
Can I just say that the biggest part of Trump, that public persona that I don't like, is when he does teleprompters. It's very boring when he does teleprompters, including that segment. He was reading off the teleprompter, trying to improv a little bit of it, and just having a hard time improving it. I wish he was more freeform, but Lord knows if he was freeform there, we would be listening to Trump till kingdom come. I mean, his press conference yesterday was 2 hours, so I get it, but still, nonetheless, he's right about the Western European leaders, even some of the Eastern European countries. They have been too accommodationist to immigrants who refuse to assimilate. Many European nations, I had to explain to my child who wants to do some traveling while she's over there, that there are parts of countries over there that have no-go zones. You do not go into these neighborhoods. They are overwhelmed with immigrants who have refused to assimilate, and they've just kind of put them in a ghetto and left them to their own devices, and nobody goes in there, and they're violent places. And occasionally the violence spills out, and sometimes they turn into terrorists. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for society. And it's still a minority. We over-exaggerated. Many of these countries, just like 3 or 4% of the population. I think the most is 13%. That might be Sweden, I think. There are parts of Sweden where it's not safe to go. And they deny it, and they pretend it's not so. And what the British and the Europeans have chosen to do is to regulate our speech from pointing it out as opposed to punishing the immigrants who refuse to assimilate. They're so ashamed, I think, the Europeans are, of their past that they allow everyone else to walk all over them, and when the natives complain, they arrest the natives. It's a real problem. There's a problem about freedom in the EU, and they have been so bitten by the woke bug on the environment and stuff. I mean, just listen. I want to play you some of this. This is from one of the German leaders, the German climate minister. The fact that they have a climate minister is a damning indictment on Germany to begin with, but just listen to this from Davos.
As you know, Germany, we have a stagnation economically, but not in the clean tech. Clean tech is increasing by 5% the year, and I would like to support this by regulatory framework. And last thing, I would add, coming back to democracies, you need the voters in favor of that, and that's a question of distribution. Who pays the bill? Who pays the bill for the energy? Who pays the bill, especially for implementing the policies? And I changed the politics a bit. Not the elite 10% gets the subsidies. The upper 50% gets the subsidies. For instance, if you buy an electric car, I introduced a new program on Monday that you could get up to 6,000 euro if you have below 40,000 euro. That means having the decision to drive an electric car is not only from a moral point of view or even from a social distinctive point of view, driving a Tesla, which is not very popular in Germany right now. Well, you have to know what to do. But it's a reasonable question. And so
We can stop that. He's with Al Gore, by the way, who was laughing in the background about it. It's not popular to drive a Tesla in Germany right now. You got that? Germany is in economic stagnation, so we're going to subsidize you to drive an electric vehicle to help you with your moral choice. That tells you everything you need to know about how screwed up Europe is right now. But they're still our allies. We may have problems with them, but they're still our allies. And many of you who most hate Europe have been stirred up by an online campaign, most likely, in all seriousness, funded by the Russians and the Chinese to get you to try to push the United States and Europe apart. And by the way, it's well documented, in fact, that on TikTok, controlled by the Chinese with their algorithm, they have been trying to indoctrinate people, particularly Americans identified as conservatives, as to how awful Europe is. So you hate them. It's bad, but it's not as bad as you think. And again, they're still our allies. So what ultimately is probably going to happen? You've got the NATO leader, Mark Rutte, I think his name is, saying that, the United States is right about Greenland. Greenland does need to be secured. So what are we going to get? We're going to get what we could have gotten all along before the president went down this insane road about invasion of Greenland. We're going to bolster military defense of Greenland. We're going to work with NATO to do so. The president's going to get what he wants with missile defense. And he could have done it all along had he started dialoguing with them about the need to do it, because it's already in the Danes' defense briefing already says it's a concern and they needed to work with NATO. And then he does this whole kabuki theater on conquest of Greenland and adding it to the United States because we need it. And it's just killing the Republicans in the polling in the run-up to the midterm. But, it's a super secret 4-5D chess plan to get exactly what he wanted, which is what he could have gotten before he did all this and cratered Republican polling. Maybe the ultimate 5D chess is he wants to keep Jeffries as Speaker of the House, because then he'll have somebody to actually run against domestically instead of having to take ownership for stuff, since he and the GOP control everything. He could have gotten exactly what he's going to get out of Greenland, whatever, haven't gone down this insane road. And all that being said, yeah, he's still better than Kamala Harris. Thanks for watching. If you want the full rundown every day, text Erick to 33777. That's ERICK to 33777 for the show notes and updates. Stay informed, stay engaged, and please keep the faith.